everyone. Now we're going to start talking about how we're going to color these in. There's different options. You're the artist of your artwork, so you need to decide what works best for you. And sometimes it just matters what we have to work with. So if you have markers, great, colored pencils, crayons. Some people have asked about paint and things. I don't mind if you do that, but you certainly don't have to. So one thing I want to talk to you about is the stem. So I am going to use a marker. I happen to have a Sharpie. If you don't have a Sharpie, that's fine. Not to worry. You can use a regular black marker, or if you don't have any markers at all, you can use black crayon or colored pencil. So what I'm going to do is at the very top, in my stem, I'm going to carefully color all of this in until the only thing that's left are white circles. So that's how the top should start to look. It should look like white circles left behind. And in the bottom, in the body of the pumpkin, you can start thinking about what color you want to use. If you want to use a darker red or that orangey color, I'm going to make another dot here. You can use orange, you could use yellow. So I want you to take notice. What I'm doing is I'm starting to add a little bit more dots in there. I'm working as I go. So if that happens to you and you're like, oh, I need a couple extras, you can do that as well. Yeah, I need a little bit more dots. Okay, cool. So there's the top. Now for the bottom, remember I was saying you can use markers, you can use crayons, you can use colored pencils. So I'm going to start with my crayons first, and I want my pumpkin to look like it's glowing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my yellow first. I happen to have one that doesn't have any of the paper on it, so it would be easier to rub it on its edge. If you have crayons that still have the paper on it, you can just color with it regular. So I'm going to do it shape by shape, just how we drew it and how we added our spots. We did it all that shape by shape. So I'm going to fill this all in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my orange crayon and I'm going to add just around the outside. I'm going to start adding the orange just around the outside of this shape. And I'm pushing a little harder. Now you might want to make sure that you have your cheetah feet on. Mrs. Sasso is moving pretty quickly. And I'm just going carefully around the edge, creating a nice dark frame. It's one of the things I love to do with crayons is kind of layer them to create some cool effects. So I'm not done yet, even though it looks pretty neat. As I start to move towards the center, I'm going to push a little lighter. Just a little lighter. And you can turn it just how I was turning it, if it's easier for you. Work with it however you feel comfortable. Both of my boys, I think I told you I have 3 lovely children. Both of my boys are lefties. I am not a lefty, I am a righty. So if you're a lefty and you're feeling like you need to turn it a different way or hold it a different way, go for it, whatever works. As I go towards the middle, I'm just kind of following that shape, working towards the middle. I'm getting a little lighter. So remember we talked about Papa Bear, Mama Bear, Baby Bear. You can even think about that with pressure, the kind of like the size of the pressure. Harder, medium, softer. So harder around the outside, medium as you go towards the middle, and then lighter as you go right in the very middle. And then you're just going to keep doing that on all of the shapes. So I'm going to layer with my yellow. Oops, kind of went around outside, that's okay. And then you're going to go darker. And as you work your way towards the middle, you start going softer and softer. So I'm still in that darker spot. And then I'm going to bring it in a little softer, so I'm not pushing as hard. And then you'll fill it all the way up, just like that. Keep going. Now, what if you don't have that or you don't really like the look of that? That's fine. You can just take your marker. I suggest orange, but if you wanted to do something like a yellow, that's fine. You want to color in just like we did with this. You want to color that in with the black, and then just carefully start to add your orange on top. Whenever you're coloring with marker, try to stay in one direction because you start to see lines if you don't color in that one direction. You can play around with layering with colors. So what does that mean? I can show you. After it starts to dry, you let it dry. You can add a color that is a friend of orange on the color wheel. So maybe you have yellow or you have red. So what you can do, and I'll show you on a practice piece of paper, and you can do the same thing. So I'm going to see how my colors blend. So here's my orange, and this is how my orange looks. Now I want to see what happens when I add some yellow after it dries a little bit, and I'm going to play around with some red, and maybe I'll even try some pink and just see what happens when I blend them a little bit. So I'm going to take my yellow, I'm going to see what happens. Not a whole lot with the yellow. Let's see what happens when I add a little bit of the pink. Oh yeah, it got a little darker. Now let's take a look what happens when I add some red. Oh yeah, definitely a lot darker. I think I like the pink. So I'm going to show you what happens. So this is important to use that practice sheet because maybe you don't like the way it looks. So on these, wherever it might be a little bit darker, if you want to create a 3D effect, you can add just a little bit of that color right around maybe the edge and maybe the bottom. And it will create a really cool 3D look. So I'll show you, keep going. Remember, I'm doing in one direction so that we don't get a lot of lines. And also, the more you start to color in one spot, if you don't keep your marker going, sometimes you can create a hole in your paper. And if you worked really hard, the last thing you want is for a hole to go in your paper. Oops, I went on the edge. That's okay. I can always cut my pumpkin out and put it on another piece of paper. Or I could find some white out. Almost done. Okay, now I'm going to take my pink again, and I'm going to add it around here. Creating a little bit of shadow. Do you have to do this? Absolutely not. I just think it looks kind of cool. You can play around with it until you fill up the whole thing. So, whether you're using crayons, markers, colored pencils, if you're layering, if you're not layering. You must enjoy yourself and stay creative. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys soon.